New lights, new extra serious red. Here we go. Let's talk about Demigod. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watcher Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about Demigod, which I'm a little late. I'm sorry about that. It came out on October 15th, 2021 in theaters and on digital. It's a new indie horror film put out by Gravis Ventures, and it stars Rachel Nichols, Jeremy London, Elena Sanchez, and Yohance Myles. So I'm going to talk to you a little about the film, go over some things I liked and some things I didn't love. So in that process, I will be talking about the film and things that happened, and so there will be spoilers, especially because some of the things I didn't like occurred after a fairly major story point. If you don't want to know what happens in the film, I would check it out. It's available digitally and in theaters, so you can check it out a few different ways and then come back. Or you can read the review on watcherpass.com, where I'm a little bit more vague. I just go over kind of broader subjects, and so there generally are not spoilers in those reviews. My quick take on this film is I think it's ultimately a rental. It has some really good aspects and some things that really shine through, but I think the second half of the film just didn't really do it for me, and so that's kind of my ultimate take. And I'm going to go into some more details, and you'll hear why now. But that's my quick take. If you just want to know that, you can pop out now and go figure out if you want to watch it or not. So in Demigod, you have Robin return to her, I guess, childhood cabin, a cabin that she grew up with, or at least has a lot of association with from when she was a kid, in the Black Forest of Germany. And so she is not German as far as we can tell. I mean, she doesn't speak German. She seems to be a little out of place here. She seems like she has maybe some rough memories, and that kind of comes through as the film goes. She returns with her boyfriend Leo, and they are there after her father has died to kind of have I think a vacation in this cabin, this childhood cabin. And there's a lot of a homecoming element to this as well. She meets some people who remember her as a kid or remember her dad. It appears to have been a while since she came back, but as she meets people and as she spends more time, the memories kind of start flooding back. And so she starts to remember things about her childhood, things about her father teaching her about how to survive out here, but also about some of the Germanic kind of folklore legends that were out here. And as she spends more time, those start to materialize. I guess those start to become clear. There's a few flashback scenes and just some other elements where she tells her boyfriend Leo about things that happen. And so that's kind of the general gist of the film. It's kind of a two-part movie. The first part is more, I guess, your traditional horror, like kind of what you would expect. They go to this deserted cabin, isolated cabin, weird stuff starts to happen, and then terrible stuff starts to happen. And then the second part is more of kind of like a hunt, like a great hunt from Folklore, or like the Hunt movie, where you have a group of people that then have to scatter and survive from a malevolent force. And so the film has two main parts, and they feel very different. The film does have a very distinct feel at the start and a very distinct feel at the second half. And I think I actually enjoyed the first half a little more. Maybe I'm just more of a drama type person. I don't know. But I liked the first part. The second part, I didn't love. I'm going to go into that right now. But first, I'll talk about the things I liked. The first thing I liked is the cast. The cast is a strong cast, and it's headlined by Rachel Nichols, who does a really good job. She has to put a lot of the mystery into this film. And so she does that through kind of some of her memories and also some of her trepidations about this cabin. And so she has to kind of sell the dread of this cabin and also sell the fact that she is slowly starting to remember what's happening. And she gets, she has a pretty long journey in this film. And she also, as things come back, aspects of her childhood come back as well. And one thing I appreciated was towards the end of the film, she speaks some German lines, which was a nice touch. It kind of shows her coming full circle into what she either had blocked out or didn't remember. But I really liked Yohance Myles. I think he was actually my favorite character in this film. He does a really good job at the start of kind of adding some warmth and some humor to this overall situation. Rachel Nichols' character is a little bit more serious, and Yohance is a supportive character, but he also adds some fun and some laughs to this film as well. And so I thought he was one of the reasons I really liked the first part, because seeing them together was very natural and fun. And even though the cabin was a little bit creepy, they kind of made the most of it, and that was a fun experience as well. The second thing I really loved is the setting. So the film was set in the Black Forest, although after talking to Miles Doleac, the director, it was filmed somewhere in the South. I think it was Mississippi or Missouri, but I don't really remember. But it was not somewhere you would expect to look like Germany, but apparently the forest composition is very similar to the Black Forest. So he actually went out and found a forest that had a similar feel and a similar type of trees to the Black Forest, or to give it as much of a accurate setting as possible. In this setting, you have this really wonderful cabin where a lot of the film, at least the first part, takes place. And it's this really great combination of isolated cabin that has the sinister aspects you would expect in a horror film. I mean, it's an isolated cabin that's basically horror gold. But it also has, a few small touches. Robin's father in the film was a hunter, and so the cabin has a lot of like skulls and taxidermy animals and some animals that are slaughtered and drying that maybe were left a little bit too long. So it has these sinister aspects that kind of come out. But then at night, when the two make the most of it and they kind of have a meal and sort of fire, the cabin does have this cheery sense. So it's this interesting balance of sinister, like in every horror film, but also a sense of home and purpose, because this is Robin's childhood home. So she does have this is a home to her. So I liked that balance of the two aspects, and I think it really made the start great. And I liked the fact that it did feel like a German Black Forest. I couldn't tell. Like I didn't know that it was filmed in America. So I think that the director did a really great job of setting this up. And the last thing I really loved is the mystery. Like every good horror film, you don't really know much about these characters at the start, and you kind of start to get more information as the film builds. I like that aspect in the movie in general, and I liked it how they did it in this film. It's mostly fueled through Rachel Nichols' character Robin as she learns more about her past, remembers more about her past. But it does give you this kind of sense of unease at the start when you're really trying to figure out what happens. And then the film does, after Robin learns more about her past, the film turns very quickly into a hunt movie. So I really appreciate kind of how you didn't really know what was going to happen. And then when the film turned into a hunt, I really didn't know that was going to happen. So there you go. I was surprised as well. Things I didn't love. I didn't love the turn, actually. I didn't love when it turned into kind of a wild hunt type of movie. I think that I really enjoyed the start where you had this couple in the woods, the sinister aspects, the mystery. Once it turned into a hunt, it kind of became more of an action film, but I didn't love having all the characters split up. I liked when all the characters were together. They were interesting together. They had very different demeanors, and they kind of ribbed off each other. But then eventually they just kind of scattered into groups. And then that got rid of some of my favorite characters from this whole setting. You kind of saw them sporadically. And then when characters started to die, you also lost some characters. So I didn't love that. And also the hunt should have been exciting, but it wasn't exciting to me. I don't know if it was maybe because the scenes were too quick, or because maybe the deaths were too quick, but there wasn't really a ton of suspense during the hunt itself. There was a lot of suspense at the start when it was building up, but then once the hunt happened, I felt like maybe the film just didn't have that kind of eerie feeling anymore now that everything was revealed. The second thing I didn't love is the pace and the pace of the hunt, essentially. This kind of goes with the fact that I didn't really have this eerie feeling during the hunt, but I also felt like there wasn't a ton of drive. It didn't really feel like these characters had a goal. It almost was just like their goal was to survive, but you didn't know how long they had to survive. You didn't know how they could escape. And so the hunt went into this kind of, you see a group of characters, and then some of them die, and then you see another group of characters, and some of them die. They didn't really have an overall driving end goal other than like, we have to survive, we don't know what happens. And so it made the hunt feel slowly paced, which is weird because the hunt should have been the exciting part. But for me, it kind of felt slower than I think it should have been, and it made that whole sequence not that exciting to me. And the last thing I didn't love is the monster. This is a normal thing in horror. It's not normal, but it's not uncommon. You have all this build up to this horrible creature, and then when you finally see it, you don't love it. It's kind of like I don't know if anyone watched Doug. Maybe I'm dating myself, but there's this scene where Doug is so afraid to see the monster, and then when he finally sees it, you can see like, oh, there's a zipper in the back from like the actual prosthetics, and it made everything easier for him to bear, but the tension was what was scaring him. And then when he finally saw the monster, it didn't look that impressive. This monster is impressive. I will give it that, but it does have some aspects that made me think it looked a little silly. And specifically, it was these laser eyes that it had. It had like laser pointer eyes. And I think the goal was to show these red demonic eyes in this fog. But to me, it made me think of like laser tag or some sort of like cheesy Hollywood movie monster. And to me, it didn't accomplish the purpose. And I also thought it did kind of look like someone in prosthetics, although they were well done prosthetics. It did look very demonic. But to me, when I saw the monster, it didn't have the same sense that the movie had when it was all on ease. It didn't have the same kind of tension. And maybe that also was because the monster came during the hunt. And so I had already kind of lost that sense of unease and tension during the hunt. But to me, it just didn't have the kind of payoff I was expecting. So overall, I think it's a decently done indie film. I think it's a rental. I think you check it out. Maybe you rent it digitally. You don't have to run out and see it in theaters. Although if you really want to see it in theaters, who am I to tell you? But I think ultimately it's a rental. So you can check out Demigod in theaters and digitally on October 15, 2021. You can also check out my interview with Myles Doleac. He was actually a fantastic interview. He was a pleasure to talk to. He had some really great insights in the film and how they were made and kind of how they were able to do this on an indie budget. I mean, a lot of this is just, it's an indie film. You're going to have some, you're not going to be able to do everything you want. And so he actually does a really great job of kind of how this film was made, how it evolved, and what cuts they had to make to get this film actually into production. So, and then also he talks about how it was edited during COVID and things like that. So I think you should check out that if you're interested at all. He was a fantastic interview. And that's my take on Demigod. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. And check out my other content as well. I've got other movie reviews, interviews, unboxing videos, and every week I do a weekly movie recommendation. So thanks so much for watching and take care.